Hi, I'm Bart Hansen, the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. I hope you enjoy the following hand that I recently played. So this next hand was played in the $10,000 main event of the Los Angeles Poker Classic, which was held at the Commerce Casino in February of 2017. I ended up taking 19th in the event, and we're going to talk about a hand against Rainer Kempe. Now, if you don't know who Rainer Kempe is, he's won over $9 million in live tournament earnings. He won $5 million for a first prize at an Aria high roller in 2016. Really one of the best live MTT players that's out there. Now, I was cruising along. This was about, I would say, two-thirds of the way through day four. We were already well in the money, and with about, I would say, 30 players left, I probably had a top five chip stack. There was $1 million to be won up at the top. We were playing 600, 1200 with a 200 ante, and I had about 900,000. So I had just under about 80 big blinds. Now, Kempe had just about 40 blinds. He had 480K to start the hand. Luckily for me, I was to his left, so he couldn't really give me fits from out of position. But in this particular hand, he opened from the hijack, which was 2 to the right of the button, to 26,000. Now, I was on the button with 4-5 of clubs, which is an interesting spot because some people will 3-bet here, especially to get it heads up. Now, obviously, you can win the money right away. I mean, he's risking about 2.2 big blinds to win 3. So right away, there's about 5.2 big blinds in dead money. You know, if I were to just say raise it to 6.5 big blinds, something like that, I could win it right away, raise it to like 75K. Also, too, you get the blinds out of the hand. Nowadays in tournament poker, most people are aware of the good price that they're getting if somebody raises to just over 2 times the big blind with the antes, especially when another player calls the raise like I did. They're going to be getting 6, 7, 8 to 1 sometimes in the big blind. But in this particular spot, I felt a call was warranted on the button because I didn't want to get blown off of my hand pre-flop, and I knew that Kempe could kind of play that pre-flop war game where it would really suck if he 4-bet me huge and I couldn't see a flop. The other thing, too, was these particular players in the blinds really weren't interested in defending, no matter what kind of price that they got. So for those reasons, I decided to call on the button. And what I wanted to have happen did happen. Both of the blinds folded. So we were heads up. And I got one of the better flops that I could get, unless I was going to flop some sort of monster-made hand. The board came out ace of clubs, 3 of diamonds, 9 of clubs, giving me a straight draw and a flush draw. I had a wheel draw to a deuce, and I also had a club draw. Now, a lot of people go nuts on boards like this, where they're just going to be raising any 12-out draw, getting it in, it didn't matter. But I felt like I can maneuver this pot somewhat depending on what he did. He came out and bet 40,000, which was a really big bet for him because he had usually been following up with the same size of a continuation bet as he had been raising pre-flop. So I thought that that was a little bit large. That might indicate that he has a big hand and he wants action. Could also indicate that he could be barreling, or he could have a draw as well. My club draw was only 5 high. There is a possibility that he could have Broadway clubs or something like that too. But I felt like if I were to call this bet and he didn't have an ace, he might just shut it down on the turn and I can risk less by calling instead of raising. So I decided to just call. So we moved to the turn, and the turn is an offsuit 8, and that didn't help my hand at all. And something very peculiar happened. He came out and bet absolutely huge, 110,000, almost 3xing the previous street's bet. And that was such a strange bet, and I really do wish I had this hand back. Now, at the time, I was thinking, man, I wish that was a 7. A 7 would have basically given me a double gutter. I would have had a straight draw to a 6 and a deuce. And at that point, if a 7 had come, you know, my hand is so big I can raise. And if there's any hint of fold equity, it can be a pretty profitable play. The other thing, too, with not raising the flop is a lot of people don't play sets all that fast. So you could make the case if I'm raising the flop, the only made hand I have might be ace-9 or ace-3 that didn't 3-bet pre-flop. If you wait sometimes and wait to raise on the turn, you can have ace-8 now. You can have 8-9 now in your range. There's just more hands that I could have. Slow played set of 3s, pocket 9s, slow played top 2, etc., etc. If I had to do it over again against this sizing, I very well might have just jammed here because of the amount of dead money that was in the pot. And I didn't really think that his line was all that consistent with value. Now, at the time, I said, you know what, I'm going to play this hand a little bit passively. I still certainly have the equity to call. My straight draw is hidden if I catch a deuce, and I still have 12 outs, and I'm getting a good price in immediate odds plus implied odds with the money that we still have behind. So I decided to call. Now, there's one other caveat there, too, is that if he does have higher clubs and I raise the turn and I get him to fold there, then I don't have extreme reverse implied odds, which means if you make your hand and you actually lose. So I call the 110,000. The river rolls off and I'm peeking out of like my left eye and I see that it's a small card and it's not a club. And I thought for a second it was a deuce, but it actually paired the 3. So we look at a final board of ace-3-9 with 2 clubs, turns an 8, and the river is the 3 of hearts. So I totally miss. And I was actually thinking at the time, because he spent about 10 or 15 seconds, if he checked, would I bluff here? At the end, would I have no showdown value with 5 high, but am I going to bluff? And I think a lot of times people make the mistake, well, if you have no showdown value, you have to bluff. That's not necessarily the case. If I felt like he was going to call here with a lot of hands that he was check calling with, then I don't think that I would have chosen this hand to bluff. Nothing really came in. The 3 doesn't change anything. I probably would have just checked it back and given up. He's the type of sicko that might even call with king high here, like if he somehow missed with king high clubs. But something interesting happened again. He now moved all in for just over 300,000, so maybe 305,000. And obviously, I could do nothing but fold. I ended up folding, and he showed kind of, I think there was another German guy at the table kind of peeled up his cards, and it almost seemed to me like he was showing him that he had bluffed me off of the hand, which was quite interesting. Like he was trying to bluff me off of a hand like ace-10. But I know that he's a good enough player where he wouldn't just do that blindly. If that were the case that he did bluff me, I would highly suspect that he actually had higher clubs than I did in this hand. We'll never know. Maybe he'll get to see this video and he can remember the hand and tell me. But, if I had it to do over again, I think a raise on the turn would be a very, very strong play. And he might even fold a hand as strong as ace-king. And if that's the case, then I probably should have raised the turn. There really wasn't a whole lot of raise bluffing going on, and I think he would have given me a lot of credit. Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out CrushLivePoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA100. Click on the link right there.